at the Cave Inn in Woolloongabba, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathering today, the Yagara and the Turrbal people. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and just want to extend that respect to all First Nations people across all lands, and just acknowledge that we wouldn't be here without Mother Earth.
So we're here today at the Cave Inn, a great safe space, a great music venue in Woolloongabba. I'm here, Justine and Tessa. We're from the Souljah Sisters program on 4ZZZ, and we're here to talk with these great artists who are going to be playing a gig here on the 7th of November. We're going to talk about who we are, how we're involved in the music industry, and what this gig is all about, because it has a particular intention behind it, which is really important and that we are so glad to get behind. So if we could maybe begin by, does each artist here want to introduce yourself and how you like to be known and what you do?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, me? Okay.
Maddie, would you like to start?
Great. Well, my artist name is Holy Basil. I am based on the Gold Coast. The music that I create, I call it theatronic. So it's a mixture of electronic music and theatrical side of things as well. Well, yeah, I feel really grateful and really blessed to that we're all sitting here being able to have this experience and be able to unravel everything of our own experiences together, coming from very diverse backgrounds as well. And I feel very grateful to be a part of a showcase that's really elevating First Nations artists and gender diversity, and also LGBTQ as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. And what pronouns do you like to be known by?
She, her.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Crystal West, First Nations woman. My music's all about culture, all about identity, land rights, black rights, human rights. And I'm pretty excited to be here to share different perspectives and the different challenges that we have as artists in the music industry. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Benedict, or Alexis Benedict as well, as my everyday name, but music name Benedict. My music is very sort of a mixture of dream pop and electronic sort of style. Yeah, I wanted to, I guess, pull a gig together, which we'll chat about, but just to kind of celebrate the different communities in the music industry, and I guess that have been underrepresented and haven't been supported the way that I feel like they should be. But I think this calls for a celebration instead of us being too sort of down on what's been happening. I wanted this to be a safe space for everybody, especially, as Maddie said, for women, LGBTQIAplus, POC, BIPOC. I think it's really, really important that, each artist here today that's come together, we came together for the same reason. And I'm really grateful that these beautiful artists came on board so we could do this show to really celebrate our communities and step forward.
Awesome. We'll talk a bit more about the show. I'll just say that my name is Justine. I am a settler here, and I am an accomplice to the Souljah Sisters, which is a show on 4ZZZ, which is a safe space for First Nations women to produce radio. And I'm so glad to be involved in this chat. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. And my name is Tessa. I'm also a Souljah sister and radio host at 4ZZZ. Super excited to be invited into this space and to have this yarn, because I think it's really important. And I'm excited for where this goes as well. Yeah, paving away a healthy foundation for women, people of colour, non-binary people. So,
and can I just back up a little bit to the gig itself? It's going to be presented by Tomboy Records.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So could you just tell us a little bit about the background with Tomboy Records, like how long it's been around and how it came about?
Yeah, so, almost 4 years ago now, I started Tomboy Records during lockdown, which was a very interesting time to start it. But, it came from a really deep place where I had seen lots of different experiences of our communities of artists suffer at the hands of the music industry. And for me, I wanted to create change. I wanted to create a safe label and a safe space where it was run by the communities and, an artist collaboration, basically. It's important that we start creating safe space in the industry. And so that was the forefront of why, when Tomboy hit. And we've been, running for about 3.5 years, slogging it. But, it's being noticed. And I think people are really, it's being noticed in the way that it needs to be, where we're stepping up and people are hearing the advocacy we bring and the support we bring to artists. And as an artist, I have experienced things myself within the music industry that are not okay. So, for me now, especially, there's been a couple of events over the last few weeks we've experienced as well. And it's just, we really need to step up and we need to make change. And that's what Tomboy's about, Yeah.
Did it take you a while to get to that point? Like, were there, I don't know, for me personally, we were all at the Australian Women in Music Awards a few weeks ago. And I think for all of us who were in the panel of men that were featured at the conference, we saw displays of old school thinking, thinking that does not create safe spaces for women, gender diverse people, people of colour, First Nations people. And that really personally affects, it seemed to personally affect everyone who was in the audience that day. Do people feel comfortable talking about, what that was like for you if you were in the room, or what leads you to want to be more involved in more safe spaces, like, where you've come from in the music industry? Is that something?
Yeah.
Did you want to start, Maddie?
I feel like for me, just that whole panel, just like personally in my body, like it just felt very triggering, and I was very much like just sitting in my chair just being like, oh, like what is going on here? Because it really was meant to be a conversation that was opening up to like create more safe space and this conversation between women and then, men in the industry that are like here to support women. And for me, it was really eye-opening to just be like, okay, it doesn't actually matter like some of the people, like what was coming out of their mouth. It was the behaviors. And I feel like people can kind of like say things and say that they're supportive, but the actual behaviors can sometimes show different. And just everyone on that panel, it was just kind of like a clear indication for me of where things are still currently at. Which, there was people on that panel that I was just like, I really appreciated what they were saying, and I could tell they were speaking from their heart and they really do care about seeing this change in the industry. And then, there was someone on that panel that also had that very old school kind of thinking, and it was just like, okay, well, here's a clear demonstration of where we're at.
And also where we've come from.
Yeah.
And how much work there still is to do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it was just, I just feel like it could have been handled a lot better. Like, I feel like I was just sitting there being like, just noticing all the different things that could have been handled better with it. And I really just wanted to like be like, it should have been someone else, interviewing. That person should have been like called out for their behavior right on the spot. I just feel like it could have been handled in a different way. And I think being able to have that education like right then and there when the behavior's there is really important, instead of, trying to like dodge it or like compensate. It's just like important for us as women to really like stand in our own power and our own truths and know exactly like how to call out that behavior and like stay strong in, what we know is right and integral, instead of trying to dodge it and weave it to kind of like compensate other people, which I think has been like a trained kind of behavior throughout society for a really long time. So it's like we're all relearning how to like really stay strong in ourselves and what we expressing, like what we know is right. as well. So
That makes me want to ask you, sis, how you felt with that panel and those comments.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there? No? Okay.
But I heard about it because
Yeah.
one of my best friends were on the panel, Will Willie
Yes.
from Powerhouse. From Powerhouse. And to me, like hearing about it, not surprised. You know, not surprised at all, especially as a First Nations person that experiences racism and discrimination and the unconscious bias that is prevalent within our society and deeply ingrained. So I wasn't surprised, and I agree with you, like that people need to be held accountable. You wouldn't sit there, well, I hope not, and not call out racism if someone makes an inappropriate comment that's based on race and it's really inappropriate. You'd call out that behaviour and address it then and there because it's not right. So it's a shame to hear that there weren't very many people on that panel that didn't speak up, except for the one First Nations man on that panel. And that moment actually made me really proud because the way that society views First Nations men is negative and there's a lot of stereotypes. But that particular man on that panel was First Nations and he stood up and he spoke up for what is right. And that made me really proud. It's unfortunate that that situation had occurred and it's not okay what was said. But for a First Nations man to speak up, that's so important. Awesome. And that you know, that's our values as First Nations people.
Yes.
You stand up for what is right.
Yeah.
And you continue to push on despite what society has deeply ingrained within it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My point of view from being in that room and witnessing that was that would never go down like that in community, because there would have been so many people in roles of, you know, leadership, like uncles and aunties, and then, you know, elders who would have just been like, absolutely not, we need to unpack this and deal with this right now and put it to bed.
Yeah.
So it was a nice reflection of how I prefer settings like this, in a circle on a round table where you get to hear everybody's input, and it's to work together, it's to find a middle ground. And to understand other people's perspectives, you know, what led that man to those comments, you know, what upbringing has he had to allow that kind of behaviour to be, and so on and so forth. So, super grateful to be here. And you were there?
I was there, and I made a very, I was actually sitting next to Jamie Lee Dimes, who actually wrote the article. And I was sitting with a beautiful group of people who were really affected. I was affected, you know. I think I've heard that sort of thing from men in the industry for a long time, you know. I've had experiences myself where it's, you know, 15 years ago it was, don't tell anyone you're gay, you won't be signed, or don't wear that, or don't look like this because of this. And that's personal experiences, you know, plus 100 more I could go through, or thousands of more that I could go through. But, you know, for me, I'm very much a social justice person and a justice-based person. And I think, you know, I had to support my sister next to me and speak up. So I did ask Smash from Oztix the questions, which obviously at the time seemed to upset the facilitator. She was trying to shut it down. But the reality is, my question was, you know, what are you going to do about change, mate? What are you going to do? Like, we're telling women to do this and we're telling women to do that. You know, and his comments were, you know, women need to not distract men. Well, hang on a minute. Like, men need to stop their bad behaviour, you know, and they need to re-educate themselves. And I believe in the music industry, we need some serious mandatory training. Like, across the board, there has been way too many situations with sexual assault, sexual harassments, all these sort of things that have happened within, like, just everywhere. And, you know, they're still happening today. I mean, I think it was Rolling Stone in the UK recently that said more than half of women in the music industry in UK still feel unsafe. I mean, come on, man. Like, you know, women are more than half of the population. Like, what is going on here? And it's such a deep systemic behaviour, which is what you're talking about, like, across the board. But especially for the safety of, like, say, a non-binary, like an AFAB non-binary person, which I am, you know, I still get sexualised and spoken to in a certain way. Not okay, you know. I now run a label. I'm obviously a recording artist as well. But, you know, I've had those experiences throughout multiple jobs I've been in throughout my life, as a prison officer, with guards. I've had it from many different men, and the thing was, don't speak up, because if you do, you'll lose your job. Sorry, it needs to change. We need new education, and it needs to be coming from, whether we hit up Arts Minister or whether we start something where there is a safety space created for artists and we need to change. We just need to change, especially for workers as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not just the music industry. It's everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody is affected by this poor behaviour. And it seems like you can create these spaces, but ultimately you have to want to do the work. So it seems like you've got to lead the way. You've got to live in integrity. And oh my God, I'm losing my thoughts. But yeah.
Can I say, I was just going to say, for me and Tessa and I, we felt a responsibility to unpack that that experience, that panel, as well as talking about the amazing matriarchs panel. we were raving about that. Yes. But we felt a responsibility to talk about that on air, live on air on Triple Z the weekend after it happened. And I remember we were both quite affected, and for me, I was trying to work out why I was so affected. I was like, why is this getting to me so much? And I think it's because sometimes you can have this idea, like there's a facade that the music industry is progressing, and, at Triple Z we've got quotas. We make sure that at least half of our music is, women and non-binary artists, but that the inner workings of the industry are still kind of ruled by that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
So
it was a good insight into how things are still what's still happening and what still needs to change.
Yeah.
And it was good to reflect. We needed to process on our own internalized misogyny and shame and savior complexes that was so deep. Because I could see, a little bit of his perspective, but also I was just like, it just took me a while to process it all and be like, yeah, but still, absolutely not. This behaviour is not okay. I think
the interesting thing is that, I've had these experiences also from women in the music industry. So I'm not here to go, okay, men, no. There are, I've had it from the LGBT community. It's people, and I think it's a deep, we need new education, but we also need to call it out. And I think it's really, really important that we, if that is happening, we find a way to kind of go, okay, what are the next steps? We can continue to talk about it openly, but again, with Tomboy, we're even discussing how we can create that change. We can start new safety hubs. There's all these sort of things we want to do. Calling it out, but then also saying, okay, well, great smash that you did a publicity apology, a public apology. What are you doing about it? What are you doing about the comments? Have you realised maybe that, you need some healing in your own life, mate, or you need some, you need some shifting in your own life, and you need some new perspectives. Maybe you should sit with a room of women and hear their stories, or get some training, or even women in the industry having the same experience. If I've had female managers treat me really badly, not my own managers, but other women I've met from Big Sound over the years and stuff like that, not okay. At the end of the day, and this is what I've said to a lot of people, is artists is what makes this music industry. Without artists, we don't have a music industry. So treat artists with love and respect like you treat anybody, and you will watch them flourish and not, end up dead in a grave or on drugs and alcohol because they're suffering so much. There needs to be mental health support. There needs to be an entire flip up. And I think it's great that it was exposed, at this panel. As much as it was difficult and it was really painful, it's one example of millions of examples over the years. And I think it's time that, the more we do talk about it, the more that we sing about it on stage, which we're going to do on the 7th, and we're going to speak out to the crowd about it. And we want to make a point of saying we're standing here, we're standing in this allyship as different communities coming together. We're here to be, to create a safe space for the people coming that night from all different communities, and make them hear our stories, but hear the music and hopefully relate, and know that there are people out there that actually care. you know, and we want to make that change. That's what we're here for. This is what this whole gig's about. You know, we're all change makers, you know.
Part of that change is going to be happening on the 7th of November. Could you talk a little bit about your vision for that event and for other events you might be running? Like, obviously it's like kind of create this best practice in the industry. So what does that look like? And maybe after that I can sort of come to you guys and see what would your vision be? Like what would you be looking for in the industry?
So we have on our roster, we've got, you know, on Tomboy Records roster, we have, there's 5 of us at the moment. 2 other artists on the roster who's Lelka, a Malaysian-born Australian artist, queer artist, and also Lion, who's our queer Ethiopian Australian artist, are both performing shows on the 25th and 2nd of November down in Naarm, Melbourne. So we've got, what they're actually doing though is both of their launches, they're both EP launches. Lelka has a whole lineup of BIPOC artists performing and DJs. Lion also has the same. And, you know, with the mentality around, especially them as artists, they advocate for change in the community and safe space. And, you know, they've created that with these shows. And this show that we're going to be doing is kind of like a series of 1, 2, 3 that hopefully we can continue on to create a movement, you know, a revolution of change. And to make it clear to the people that aren't on board with this stuff, you got to get on board because this is how it's going to be, you know.
The train's already moving.
The train's moving,
Jump
baby.
on board.
The train's moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Crystal, with change and what you're doing in your music?
I feel like I've been doing music for a long time now. And, you know, I went through a period where my mental health really, really deteriorated and was in situations that were significantly culturally unsafe, you know, where I knew that I was being treated differently to the lineup because I felt like it was because I'm Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, and then the other lineup were all non-Indigenous people, and they, you know, come from theatre, and one was like an international opera singer. So I really felt like I wasn't prioritised on that list. And then a series of events had happened, and then I ended up just losing it. And I just felt like this isn't me. Like my mental health was significantly impacted to the point where I was like, I want to quit music. Like I was so close to just being like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. But, you know, I've since, you know, been taking care of my mental health and, you know, I'm feeling a lot better now in my mental health. But now I've got things that I've put into place to make sure that I am culturally safe. Like when I'm traveling now, you know, I've got Woodford in December. For December, most of the fees that I get are gone into creating safety for me. I'm getting a babysitter to help me with my son. I'm getting Will Uy from Powerhouse to come as my cultural support and tour manager. And then, you know, I've got my whole band are all people of colour. And like I have to have these things in place so that I'm safe as a mother, as a black woman, you know, and then that's all my money gone. You know.
So what would you be looking towards, like as an ideal down the track?
Well, ideally, that there would be supports in place that that those things are available and accessible. Cultural support, support with my son, you know, things like that. Support for women and people of colour. Ideally, that's the things that would be implemented as part of the gig, but unfortunately, I have to do those things for myself to create safety for myself. So that would be the type of change that I would be looking, you know, hoping for. And not only that, mental health support as well, you know.
So it's like you're not expecting the whole industry to change overnight, but it's having the supports around you to support you in that context.
Yes.
Knowing that the industry isn't changing overnight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that you speak to being a mother as well, because that's a huge, you know, it's almost like mothers are expected to be pushed to the side once they have a child and their career ends, but it's not that way at all. sort of be supported in that and allowed to keep creating your beautiful music and art, and have room for the babies to be around it in a safe space, you know.
And that safety is really important, not only for me but for my child as well. So that's why I need a babysitter. I could manage my son if I didn't have to think about my safety, but I have to get that support in so that we're all safe.
It's good to be made aware of those different like gates or blockages or things that you need to face.
And sometimes people can't afford to cover the costs associated with creating that safety. So I just think about the people who don't have the affordability to get that stuff. The harsh reality is really important. Like, those challenges are important, but that's why I decided, I'm 100% supporting with this, because this is the change. This is how the change occurs with your fellow musicians in the community, you know, with the same values and the same visions. And so I was like, I have to be part of this because this is what I'm all about and this is what you are all about as well. So I'm looking forward to the night, and I know that it will be safe because that's what we're all about. We have the same values.
Absolutely.
Safety.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know I spoke to you about my cultural safety. I was like, am I going to be culturally safe? Like, because it's just this constant worry. And then you're like, I got you, sis. I got you. You're right, my sis. I got you. You know? So,
It's super exciting just to hear this because, you're paving that strong foundation and integrity is what it's going to take.
Yeah. And not only that, like, I haven't been involved in something like this. It's mostly like First Nations focus for me. So, you know, different backgrounds, different communities coming together. I was like, this is we can work together.
Stronger together.
That,
100%.
Yeah, that feels really special to me as well, because it's something like I see how much like the First Nations community struggles, and just like, I don't know, like I've had struggles with like my own artist journey, and I feel like it's even harder for like First Nations people, which is like really sad as well, just hearing like all their different stories and just things that they have to navigate on top of, you know, just being an artist and trying to like get their music heard and get their voice heard and everything. And, you know, as someone that's, you know, just a white person, I'm always like, well, like what like else can I do? And like, how do I also, you know, make sure that like you all feel welcome, and like how do I, you know, bring myself into that community where I'm probably like an outsider more, and, you know, still like create that sense of, so it's not just like black person, white person, but we're all like family and connected. And it's like, how do I like show that I'm also in like full support of you, even though we're from different backgrounds and we're like different and culturally diverse. Because I feel like there's a lot of important stories that need to be shared, and I feel like for me, and I say like for you as well, both of you, the best way to share these stories is through art and through music, and that's been my like savior in a lot of ways, where I felt like, you know, now I feel comfortable like saying that I'm part of like LGBT community, but for a while it's like I don't know if I like even fit into this community, or like where do I belong, and it's always like felt that way for me. You know, even in school and stuff like that, and growing up, like I'd always change friend groups a lot because I was like, I just don't know where I fit in and where I belong. So actually being able to be creative and have a creative outlet and express myself through my music and my voice has been the place where I've really just like found myself and come home to myself. So I feel like for the evening of the 7th, it's like I want to be able to like share my music with a lot of different people, because I feel like the underlying thing of like, no matter where we've come from and all our different backgrounds and experiences, there is still this really underlying theme of like, you know, we all can like relate and connect with music and art. It's like a universal language, so that feels really important and special to me to like be able to connect with people in that way. And I feel like it's so much easier for me to express and connect with people through art and music and song and poetry and everything than to just talk in like just like general words as well.
Like, I don't know if you're the same, but like for me it's like, you know, people say, oh, you know, like it's like you're so extrovert and you're so confident. And I was like, I'm an introvert, extrovert, you know. I'm a creative. Like, put me on top of a mountain for like a month, and I'll sit there and create and be by myself.
Totally.
Because the way that, as artists, it comes from within us, and it's a deep journey. It's a very deep journey. It's a very painful journey, actually. And, especially for me, I've been part of the LGBTQIAplus community since I was 20 and I came out. It's 20 years, do the math. But, for me, then a few years ago I came out as non-binary, and it felt like a whole other journey. But people don't know what you're going through, and they don't know where that story came from. And I've had a lot of people in the industry actually be like, oh, they, them, and that crap and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, why don't you ask me what it means? Why don't you sit down and ask me who I am and where that comes from? It's a very big journey, and it's a deep journey for me. And it's been a painful and a very long journey. And I think for all of us, it's a long journey, especially with where we're coming from and, kind of bringing to the table of the music industry. And I do feel like a lot of the music industry looks at people, all artists, like a product. And I think that is the biggest thing. And we did talk about that actually at the conference, and that's what I was saying, like, especially with Tomboy, we see our artists as people, like they're artists, and, checking their mental health, making sure that they can deliver their assets and their products, because maybe they're having a really bad day, and that's okay, But having that empathy and having that community feel is so much more what we need. So I'm really excited to do this show with both of you, like very equal artists to all of it. We're all equal, and it's a beautiful feeling to get up on stage and go, wow, I have this incredible, we've got this incredible lineup for the night. And what an honour, and I'm so grateful you guys said yes, because I'm just like, this is awesome.
Really
I
feel like a lot of change often comes from the ground up. So it's just doing the little bits, and then it just
Chip
creates, the ripple effects, and
then we just take over.
Yeah.
And then I just think about the crowds as well. It's going to be a diverse crowds from different backgrounds and different communities, and then that's going to create, unity amongst the crowd and spark conversations as well, and then that will be a ripple effect as well.
It'll be so inspiring. Yeah, I love the ripple effect. Yeah. Is it an all ages event?
Yes, it is. Yes. Well, the event, obviously, with a guardian, children can come. But yeah, it's there's they can get dinner, they can have some food, some drink, and be able to enjoy the show. We want to make that, obviously, especially for mums who may not have a partner, or dads that don't have a partner, and they need to bring their kids. Like, they're welcome. Like,
Ezekiel's coming.
Beautiful. I know.
Yeah,
your
my
beautiful
boy's
son's
coming.
coming.
Yeah, my boy's coming.
And we have MJ on the night, so she'll be able to help out.
As a mother, I want to be able to bring my children to more spaces like this, so that they can be exposed. This is what you can look at these talented people, and be in these safe spaces. And
the potential that is embedded when there's diverse representation as well. I wish I had more of that. Growing up, I feel like I just found that in cartoons and TV shows and everything, and not in real life. So it's cool to be older now and actually be a part of that.
And you know what? When you are able to express for your communities on stage, it's really powerful. You don't know, there could be one person there that night that just goes, I really needed to hear that. And that's great. That's what we're here for as creatives and as powerhouses, to stand up and be tall for our communities, for who we are, but also for human life, for someone that might be suffering. That is my number one thing with music, is to create change within the people we sing to and the people that we perform to. So it's going to be a really special night.
Yeah. Super exciting. Just when you were speaking before and talking about the event, it sounded, and supporting your, the artists that you support, it sounded you were, oh my God, my words again. When you were speaking before, it sounded like you were more about human decency and humanness rather than professionalism or
absolutely.
Gain. Yeah.
I think
personal gain, financial gain.
At the end of the day, we're seeing at the moment across the world absolute destruction of human life. Okay. And it's beyond heartbreaking, it keeps me up at night, and I think I just look at where we are in our communities and how we can create those small changes here now, because, right now there are literally, so many things happening. We need to stop division. Yes, there's always going to be some sort of division, but if we start in our own backyard, then it's all right. But yes, as a human being, our number one role is to bring life to others. My whole purpose in my music is to be a light to the nations and change nations, and be somebody that can, you know, even one kid, you know, like I've had one person come up to me at a gig and say, you know, I didn't want to live today and you've just changed that for me. That's everything to me. That's all I care about. I don't care about a million people going, you know, cheering me on. I just got to meet one soul that was happier today and felt healed from what I was singing about or speaking about. And that is all that matters to me personally. And I think that's what I try and bring into my record label and you know, and my communities, because we're all human. We all bleed the same blood. And at the end of the day, life is bloody hard. So let's do it together. You know, especially as creatives, we have to join together and try and create this change, because doing it alone, as we all know, it's really hard.
Yeah, it definitely takes a bigger toll on mental health and everything when it is, when you are like trying to just do it all alone.
But there are people out there like these amazing women sitting next to me, and you women as well. We're all in some way creating that change, and we're all shaping something different, but we all bring our own stories and from our own communities, and to go, you know, and I'm learning off both of these. Like I had the most amazing chats the other night, and Crystal after a few drinks, but we were just like, Crystal taught us so much, you know, about her experiences as a First Nations woman, and there was so much I learned. I mean, you know, off the different communities, and sitting with you, like, thank you so much, because it was an honour to sit with you and hear your stories. And for me, I learn more every time I sit with a First Nations person and learn their experiences. And then, you know, we were sharing some stories with you that you were like, oh, I didn't know that. And it's really cool to be able to create that unity and say, oh man, you've got stuff too. All right, let's learn, you know? And then it's like, and then we can be better, you know? We can be better for each other. So
I think that opens up more room for compassion and understanding, like what you were saying, like with Smash, like what is his like background and where has he come from to actually be brought up with like that viewpoint and to like feel like he can say those certain things. So it's like when we come together from more diverse backgrounds and actually just sit down and talk and actually get to know each other's different stories. Like on that night, like I really appreciate you were just like, what's your story? Like what is it? And I felt like that was like really beautiful for me to actually like open up and actually be able to like share more of my story and like get to know more of your story and background and yours as well. And just it just really opened up more room to just actually be able to like talk about the tougher things and the harder things. And I felt like a lot more like closer and connected to you because of it.
And that's why it's exciting to be on stage and sharing a stage, because each of us are going to share those stories, but we've all sort of intertwined by connecting, you know, in that space together. So it's really special. It's like getting up
I
there
think
with
there's
your
like
mates.
one core value that sits amongst us three, and as the artists for the night, is that like it's respect, and that's really important to me because of my culture. Respect is a big part of my culture and who we are as First Nations people, and I think that we just respect each other, and just by respecting can create so much change. One core value, respect. Be mindful, be respectful in the way that you speak to someone. Be mindful of the things that you say and how you say it. It's just being respectful, you know? So I'm just like, why can't people just be respectful?
Right.
How stinking hard is it just to be respectful? You know?
100%.
For me, I'm like, it's not that bloody hard.
Yeah. For some people it is, but you know, this is the problem. Yeah.
But you radiate it.
Yeah.
Like when you were on that matriarchs panel, you were just like, full respect to the auntie, full respect to the land, full respect to, you know, you just,
thank you.
You give that off.
Thank you.
And you lead by example with that.
Because you were sitting
I
next
try.
to Arnie Maggie Walsh as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, and what I loved, you had my attention the second questions were being asked, but Arnie Maggie was last, and I was a bit like, excuse me?
Yeah, honey should be going first.
Yeah.
That's what in my head I was like,
Yeah, and you actually you were just like, somebody asked you a question, you went, Arnie? And I was like,
yeah.
you know,
I saw
straight
that
to
too.
like, it was
Yeah.
like, this is who I'm respecting because there's the
Yeah.
boss lady.
yeah, respect your elders.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
Awesome.
I feel like also that like brings back to what we were talking about, like just the respect piece. It brings back to what we were talking about the other night, which was about like just this lack of culture. I mean, in Australia anyway, of just like First Nations culture is the culture of this land, and I feel like white people, like just speaking from my own experience, we're not really brought up with like a specific like culture and like these values like integrated into our household like from a young age. It's not really like spoken about or taught, so it's just like being able to actually be immersed in more culture where like these values are really alive and they're just there. And like I had to learn that through going to like a different kind of training, and I learned a lot about Hawaiian culture, and that was like me getting this first sense of like like proper culture, which I feel like really like still really connected to because of that. So yeah, and I think it's just like bringing more of that through, and that's why I feel like it's important for like First Nations, also LGBTQ and all of that to like have more of a voice and a platform, because there is culture that's like alive there, and it's all like I feel like it's all very positive.
Yeah,
so definitely. To be able to like bring that forward more is actually then bringing it into the wider communities of this country anyway, to be like, hey, this is the culture that we're gonna
step up on.
Yeah, and like go with moving forward.
This conversation feels like talking about cultural protocol and what is it called? Cultural safety training, which a lot of people are adopting these days and bringing into their workspaces. And it seems like this aspect is just another thing that needs to be, added to it, added to the table of contents. Like, how do we behave as good human beings, respectful human beings? So
it's important, man.
And I just say thank you.
I wanted to bring it in to just mentioning, you were talking, Alexis, about there's stuff going on in the world that's horrifying all of us at the moment. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we're on stolen land, and we're on land where, like,
genocide happened.
Genocide has happened and continues to happen. And just there's such huge scope for learning, just learning what you guys were talking about, just having a conversation with each other and going, what's your experience, what's your experience, what's your story? Because if we don't have those conversations, people are going to come into the year 2024 saying this old misogynistic stuff that we thought was done, because they're not going to learn.
Yeah.
And,
I think the more we call it out and the more we have these discussions, and then we say, okay, what are we going to do about it? How can we make this change happen? We step forward into, government and ask them to create some new training and new things that potentially could be, like safety laws for artists. Where are they? So things like this that we could all be working towards and going, right, let's get this done. So then, people are held accountable, and, we have more of a safety feeling within the industry, and it gets better. We all want it to be better, and the few people that are suffering and bad behaviour, with their bad behaviour, can they get help? We want those people to get help. We don't want to just, tell them they're toxic and go away. No, can we organise services for these people to get help? That is something that I think we should be looking at too.
So Tomboy Records is going to need like 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
To get all this stuff.
And a lot of funding.
But like we were saying before, change, it does seem to work best from the grassroots up.
100%.
Yeah, just talking about that, like change and accountability, and kind of stepping into allyship. Like, I think allyship can be glorified. People can preach and say, I'm an ally, but one, not speak up when they should speak up, and two, not take accountability and reflect on their words and actions when they should. You need to have an open mind as an ally and recognize that, okay, I said something that was not okay, but be open to being educated and not be shamed for it, but just be open to what I have to say. And I think that's what true allyship is. It's taking accountability and having the ability to reflect on unconscious biases and look within and identifying, where does that thought come from? Where did I learn that?
Yes.
So it starts with individuals, and I think that's where the change.
I can say we had that experience a few weeks ago, where I was saying something and I was in the middle of some kind of rant, and you just pulled me up and went, hang on, that's going into white saviour territory. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I had to go away and be uncomfortable for 24 hours and really think about, okay, what does that? Yeah, what was I doing there, and where did that come from? And it's changed my attitude. Just picking up.
That actually. So I've recently written a song which I shared with you, Cries of Humanity. So it's about the wars that are happening right now, and I had my partner and another friend sit down and be like, I need to write this in a way that is not white saviour song, because we've had bands do it in the past. It's like, well, we're going to sing this song and save the world. And the second verse says, it talks about, the first line is, we live with privilege and food in our mouths, and we're watching this, we have the privilege, we see what we have in our safety, but, we are heartbroken for you. And I think it's really important throughout music and throughout all of our experiences as a white culture to learn the cultures that are, and not try and be like, oh, I'll help you or save you, and be like, how can I learn off you? How can I just be there and do the best I can do for you, and we share that friendship together, or with all the our communities can come together, because that's the problem. I think you're right. Like a lot of people can come in and go, and we do it. We actually do it like it's a real thing, and I think it's important we get called out. It's like I've learnt a lot.
Well, again,
for 4 years.
A cultural thing, right? It's like if an elder loves you, they're not there to shame you, they're there to pull you up then and there, and you don't go, sorry, you go, thank you, and you learn and you implement it. And it's through that accountability and that self-reflection. And again, culturally, predominantly through colonization, people have been, through missionaries, through religions, it's shame and it's fear that gets put into you, and there's these power struggles, and that's not how culture works.
Well, I think that's what we were talking about was, especially with growing up with religion and those sort of things, but also like, we have strong Irish blood, and we were brought over, as slaves for the English, right? So there's a lot of shame within our culture, and then I think we were talking about like, with the Australian culture, what is the Australian culture? Like, people come up to me all the time, oh, what are you? And I'm like, the joke in Australia is I'm a mutt, I'm this and that and this and that, because no one can find their balance of identity. And I think this is a crisis we do have in this country. But if if you look at the New Zealand culture and the Māoris, it's beautifully like taught. I went to school for 5 years in New Zealand, and we learnt Māori. We learnt the national anthem in Māori, and we spoke Māori at school, and it was amazing for me to experience that, and then come back here and be like, what?
We have a long way to go.
During the court case, during the Mabo court case with my grandparents, my grandfather actually travelled to New Zealand to learn about, their treaty and the Māori culture, and how it's kind of embedded within New Zealand. I know that there's still a lot of struggles that the First Nations people have over there, but we could definitely adopt some of that over here.
I appreciate the way they share, because I think that helps culture live on, right? Yeah, so we all need it. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well,
what a rich conversation.
I'm glad you think so.
It's like 3 different perspectives, and
it was really cool.
5 perspectives. It's,
Thank you for coming today, and
thanks for having us. Yeah,
and us sharing this space. Really appreciate all of you.
It feels really,
it
feels
really
so
powerful.
Shit, like some boss energy.
I feel like my cup is really full from this conversation. It's like go
empowering.
out and like, it's like when your cup's full, you can like give more as well.
100%. All right. Well, thank you.
I'm so excited for the extra
excited. Check the diary, but definitely bring these kids.
Awesome. Well, I think we can say the John Snap. The John Snap. Oh my God, we got to keep that.